the only way to start your day.
Self-disappearance, self-abduction, can you self-nap kind of thing. And we heard that the CS pronounced himself on this just the other day, and he said he's getting tired of this culture of people kidnapping, abducting themselves, and then staying away from people for some time, and then blaming it on the police. The DCI, Mohammed Amin, also said something to that effect, whereby he said, you're essentially making us look bad because we have no idea what's going on. How do you disappear and then say that, it's the police who took you? This is interesting because everybody got their knickers in a twist over something that they were not accused of. Raphael Tuju never came out and said, in fact, to the contrary, he said that it was better for him to be away for a couple of days because he felt that his life was in danger because he was being followed. To the contrary, he never said that he abducted himself. He never said that. So that is the charge, giving false information. But my question is, who?
He gave the false information to whom?
Yeah.
Because he never said anything. He just said, I noticed that my car was being traced along and I opted to seek shelter, and I kept quiet about it.
Yeah.
Now, he did not publicly say that I was abducted or he just, hid for safety. No, sometimes, like I had asked you earlier, the DCI was quiet when this guy went missing for, was it 2 or 3 days?
Yeah, from Friday, it was Friday night,
Saturday night. The DCI was missing.
Yeah.
There was no statement that, we are looking into it, we're doing our investigations. Actually, we never knew that the DCI was involved in any sort of investigation until the guy came out and they called for a very big press conference and they said the guy abducted himself.
So when the charge in court is that he is being charged with giving false information, I'm still asking, to whom? To whom did he give this false information that I was abducted? He didn't say he was. He actually came out and spoke of the contrary and said, exactly. Now, if you want to say that you need a broader investigation into this and ask him, how did he get from Karen to Kikuyu? Now, that's a whole different question.
Yes.
Now, you can ask those questions, one would imagine, and then hope to get an answer for that. But I do think that we are being fed to a dog and pony show here, and that there's just too many hoops to jump through, and that somebody's looking for something to stick.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, this is off the backdrop of other cases where the same for which he's being accused is true. That there are people who have laid in a field and purported to have been tortured and then dumped somewhere. And then it turned out that the converse was true. Or that people who allowed the public and security agencies to believe that they had been taken only for it to be that they were hiding out somewhere. The Ndianyoy case comes to mind. And that, of course, is still an ongoing case where he's asked to come back every now and then. Did he give false information? Is that what the charge is? Can we actually we're all now embroiled in this whole thing. But the broader question people now start to ask is, in the event that I feel
you're not safe,
exactly, threatened, can I go and disappear for a couple of days?
That's what we're waiting for the judge to come and tell us. Because where do we draw the line between, hiding, not even hiding myself, it's just I'm opting not to be seen in public, or I'm opting to enclose myself for a certain period of time for my own safety, compared to me being abducted. Where now do we draw the line when it comes to legally? Where do we draw that line? Because like you said, Ndiangui, he said that he felt he wasn't safe and he went into hiding. The same case happens to Tuju. Tuju says, I felt that I wasn't safe and I went into hiding. What crime is that when it comes to the law? So I think that is what we're anticipating to know, that where do we draw that line between, did you lie to the detectives? Because you never said that you were abducted. You never told anyone that you were taken. The police did not come and question you and you said, I was abducted. And you lied to the police, and so much time of the police was spent in searching for someone who is in his house cruising and maybe watching the telly.
Right.
Yeah, so those are, I'm anticipating to know, where do we draw the line between that legally?
Yeah. And of course, just to understand exactly if these charges essentially that we're looking at will actually stick, but then what happens to other individuals? And that is our Justice Thursday conversation for today. And we're going to be looking to some of these things and find out where perhaps the law is absolutely unclear around some of these things. And then being able to join us in that conversation for this on our Justice Thursday is Joshua Nyamori, advocate, and he joins us this morning. Wakili, good morning.
Good morning, Do. How are you?
Very well, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for the opportunity to join you once more.
Thank you. Grace is here as well.
How are you?
Hello, good morning.
Thank you.
So we're going to look into some of these things because we're still a bit confused. And as clear as the law may be, in this case, it is clear as mud in terms of what actually should be the case. But as you know, we're going to get into the conversation this morning, and we're going to start off with our proverb, which this week, our proverbs are coming out of Guinea, which is in French West Africa. And we'd love to get your interpretation of this. The proverb for this morning goes like this. Knowledge is like a garden. If it is not cultivated, it cannot be harvested.
Indeed, it takes me back to my childhood, with my father telling me, my son, read, and read. Read until your buttocks pain. Read everything and anything. Read, for reading will never kill you. Read, for reading will set you free. Basically, what I think my father was telling me then is to search for knowledge and to interrogate every knowledge out there. And as I do that, then cultivate the knowledge I have, sharpen my thoughts. And so my interpretation of that is that a society needs to build knowledge, needs to interrogate knowledge. Every time there's a thesis, there will always be antithesis. That interrogation and clash between the thesis and the antithesis will always produce, a more clearer and sharpened knowledge, the synthesis. So, in my view, the proverb is actually encouraging what you're doing here.
Yeah.
Cultivating knowledge. And I think we need to congratulate you for doing it every morning.
Asante sana,
Yes.
Wakili.
Yeah.
It's great to hear that. And indeed, in this quest for knowledge and understanding, usually when you hear public uproar and outrage and people are, apart from maybe there's an abrogation of rights or perhaps something is not working, usually it's a cry for understanding and knowledge about certain things. It's a cry for information that people want to know what it is so that they can live a little bit better tomorrow. One of the things that we've been met with this week that has held a captive audience in Kenya is this whole fiasco around what happened with Raphael Tuju. Was he missing? Was he not missing? Our Justice Thursday conversation rallies around that today, then for us to understand. First of all, is it possible, according to the law, for someone to abduct themselves?
In my view, that statement is a misnomer.
Okay.
Because abduction is basically forcefully removing somebody from his location to another location. And therefore, it connotes a lack of voluntarism. And then, using other influences. But there would be no voluntary involvement in the action. In what we are calling self-abduction, we see incidences of the purported victim actually being the perpetrators or being in collusion with others.
Okay.
Yes, and the you see the doctrinal definition of abduction does not fit, because the doctrinal definition of abduction was to protect the victim. In this case, it ends up that the objective of the so-called self-abductions is to cause panic, is to mislead the society, is to manipulate institutions. And so, in my view, we need to, as a country, and I think globally, refine what would be called self-abduction. Because even in the text of law, there is no offense called self-abduction.
Okay.
But we will have offenses related to, misleading the public, causing panic, giving false information to public servants and to the police. I have tried to look at what happens across the world, and the closer it comes in the US, in the UK, and Australia, is that you can be charged with giving false information to the police. You can be charged with, creating panic, public panic. You can be charged with, manipulating the institutions. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
In this case, did any of those things happen that you talk about, giving false information to the police? Let's look at the Raphael Tuju case and the other cases. I mean, Grace has some of those. There are other cases that have happened where people have given false information about what happened to them, whether they did it themselves or they had a proxy who did. In this case with Raphael Tuju, was there false information that was given to the police, or did he appear on Monday and say, this is where I was and it was for this reason that I stayed away?
I think this matter is still under investigation. So it would be, premature to say, for instance, that I know, for instance, that determination can only be made in a court of law. The DCI have given a statement, actually 2 statements. In the first statement, they reported that Honorable Tuju made a report to the police that he was being followed. And thereafter, his phones went off. And they mentioned that they had tried to access his residence, but they had been denied and called on the family to cooperate. In the second statement, they mentioned that, they actually were able to locate that the Honorable Tuju's phones were switched off in his bedroom. And that they were certain that is where he had been throughout. And Honorable Tuju came out and addressed the media and said that he abandoned his car because of a panic of being followed, and then found himself, I do not know how, in Kiambu, and that he was taken care of by a good Samaritan family, and that, he came back to his residence a night before he then addressed the media. The question is whether Honorable Tuju deliberately lied to the police. That is a question of evidence. Okay? Whether Honorable Tuju deliberately switched off his phone, knowing that it would cause panic, and indeed it caused panic, and whether he knew that this was happening or he did not know. The role of the family members come into play when it is said that they reported the matter to the police, that Honorable Tuju has disappeared and therefore filed a missing persons report, whether they knew that they were filing a false report. So those are issues to be discussed, and whether throughout, the 24 hours or something, when the country was in a state of panic and, there's the opposition or pointing figures at the government and say the government has abducted Honorable Tuju, whether Honorable Tuju knew of this and the members of the family and his friends. And then it is curious that, the information, the breaking news was by, elements of the opposition who were anti-government. And, the direction of the messaging was very well choreographed, that Honorable Tuju has been abducted and, the government is responsible.
Well, I think we heard PLO Lumumba very clearly saying that we will not speculate because we
know,
do not know.
What
we are hoping
you realize,
is that he is safe, and that as things play out, we will then be able to deal with it.
You realize that I have not mentioned Honorable Tuju's lawyers because they are lawyers that I have tremendous respect for, and I reviewed their words, and I agree with you that Honorable Tuju's lawyers did not make any inflammatory statement, did not point figures. But the politicians did, yes. So I think it is a matter that should, find opportunity to be presented to court. Let both parties, present their versions. And it is important that it be determined. Why am I saying this? Because we are a country in transition. We are a country in transition. Just like many other countries, abduction is a serious crime all over the world, and there are incidences all over the world. And we have historically had problems with abductions, both by private citizens, but also by involvement of individuals within the state, and that the president himself came out. Conceded to the fact that Kenya has had a historical problem with that, apologized and committed that his administration will not allow it to move on. He proceeded in the face of criticisms to then appoint human rights personalities into his government to advise and to put up frameworks to end such human rights violations, including abductions. And so we would expect that we have a country that progresses in that respect. But you see, when then incidences that end up being what now we call self-abduction keep coming up and propping up, and we have had, if there were ordinary people in the villages and slums, that would not cause uproar and panic, then it can be handled at that level. But here we have a member of parliament, Koimburi, and we have a former Minister for Foreign Affairs. You need to know that I was, I think, around 15 years old when Honorable Ouko disappeared. An announcement was made at the 7 p.m. Radio bulletin. And the entire country went into panic. Within, 24 hours, it was discovered that Ouko was dead. Okay, so definitely the mention that Honorable Tuju was missing sent panic across the country. So what am I saying? That even as we ensure that abduction end, we must ensure that the concept of abduction is not weaponized and politicized and used to manipulate the public and manipulate institutions and avoid accountability or avoid obligations. In that regard, I am hoping that the investigations will be allowed to proceed, and if there is necessity for a judicial process, that it will be undertaken, and if anybody is found to be guilty of offenses, that they are punished.
I think I get where you're coming from and I understand, but the biggest headache here is where do we draw the line between I feel unsafe and maybe perhaps from the reports that you get from police officers or security agencies, I feel it is not safe for me to go and report what I am going through. I prefer going into hiding, taking a few days to to quell down the temperatures, and then I'll come out and I'll say where I was. So it is, where do we draw that line when it comes to the law? Because as Ndu said, most of these people, even Diangao said, I had not said that I was abducted. I opted to go, not to go missing, but I opted to not to...
To be away.
I just opted to be away for my own safety because, one, maybe I cannot trust the security agencies. So where do we draw the line when it comes to...
There is no offense in locking yourself in your bedroom.
So if Tuju did the same, what could be the problem?
Even for 1 month. But you realize that I mentioned that this is an evidentiary issue. So we need to look at the evidence and the circumstances surrounding the event. Okay? And as I mentioned, I am not passing judgment. I am waiting for the evidence to be placed in court if it will end up in court. The questions that arise is that, did Honorable Tuju make a report to the police that he was being followed by a white car? Yes, he did. Was Honorable Tuju's vehicle found along, the road? Yes. Did Honorable Tuju, and not only Honorable Tuju, but also his aide, Steve Mwanga, switch off their phones? Yes, they did. Where were these phones switched off? Okay. DCI say they were switched off in his bedroom.
And they can tell. They can tell when it's off, where it, and the location of where it's turned off, right? Okay.
Definitely. They can tell. I think we have that technology. Then the next question is, what was the motive? If the motive was just to, relax, okay, then no one would hold them accountable. However, if the motive was to lie, if the motive was to cause panic deliberately, then I think that there is an offense.
How can you prove motive?
Motive circumstances. For instance, DCI have raised, and this I hope will be, canvassed in court. Have raised the issue that apart from Honorable Tuju switching off his phone, the family then made a report. And I'm assuming the family members were from the same residence, made a report that Honorable Tuju is lost. Well, when the DCI attempted to piece together the evidence of the last moments of Honorable Tuju, they traced it to his house. And they tried to access his house, but they were denied. And they were denied, I think, access for more than 12 hours. And then when Honorable Tuju finally appeared, he did not appear in Kiambu. He appeared from his house and addressed the media there. So the question is, did they deliberately lie to the nation? Did they deliberately lie to the police? Was it a fraudulent report? Okay? So the critical issue here that would determine whether the Honorable Tuju, his family members, and his political, colleagues and friends are culpable is whether there was fraud. Did they deliberately lie to achieve a certain objective, which was not a legitimate objective, and an objective that was prejudicial to national security? When Honorable Ouko disappeared, the following day there were riots in Kisumu and Nairobi. You get my point? Yes. And it ended up in several other deaths and several destruction of property. Okay? So a disappearance of an MP, a disappearance of a former minister, especially under the circumstances of the politics that surrounded Honorable Tuju for about 1 week, would definitely send the country into panic. Yeah.
There's an increase in cases of, similar cases of self-abductions dating back from May 2025, where police accused Juja MP George Koimburi of staging his own abduction to avoid arrest over land fraud, alleging he spent the night at a hotel while faking injuries. We also held Ndiangui Kinyagia, who is also said to have staged his own abduction. Do you think it is time for a law to be enhanced so that now such cases are tamed in future for causing false alarm?
Probably just clarification of the law, okay? Because the law exists, okay? Law exists against, presenting false information to the police or to any other public officers. Law exists against, inciting public into, a crisis. So those laws, we may need to look at them. But my point is that the law that exists needs to be implemented, and implemented decisively, and the public should support the institutions to implement the law. If you look at the cases you have mentioned, almost all of them were cases in which individuals who were involved were attempting to to avoid liability or obligations. Okay, and therefore, what they did was to manipulate the public. What they did was to manipulate the institutions. What they did was to, put the country in a state of panic. Yes. So, as I say, we must not allow these incidences to then trivialize the issue of abduction. Okay, because we have had serious issues about abduction. There have been judicial pronouncements of abduction, and there are not only local but also international legal instruments that call on that would call out government and individuals within the state, but even the private individuals from getting involved in abductions. But we should not tolerate individuals manipulating that, taking advantage of that to the detriment of the security of the country or stability of the country.
What should be the action, according to the law, of the police if somebody then presents themselves to the police station and says, because of 1, 2, 3, I feel as though I may be under threat or in certain kinds of danger? What should be the first response from the police, according to the law? Not politically, not any of it, according to the law.
In my view, investigations. Okay? Get the details and try to investigate the matter. And if indeed it is determined that that has happened, take action against the people who are creating fear and panic. Okay? But also, if then it is just, somebody presenting false information, then take legal action against that person to avoid that avenue of the law from being misused.
But when we talk about investigations in a country where investigations drags for long, by the time they find these culprits, you're already abducted and killed.
This is the case.
Yeah.
I mean, if there's a threat, chances are that these folks are not waiting for the investigation to come after me.
Exactly. And investigations can only be done according to the resources that are available for the police force, in terms of human resource, in terms of technology, in terms of equipment. And those are areas that we need to, build the capacity of our security agency. And I think comparatively, compared to other developing countries, Kenya is way ahead, okay, in terms of equipping the police. But we are still not there yet. Probably we may need to continuously invest in capacity building of the state to be able to do that and respond. Okay? Yes.
Now
that's my view.
that comes into where I was asking.
Yeah.
Now you go report to a police station. You find that they're taking longer for these investigations to even start or commence or whatever. You opt to go into hiding. Let me now be the Tuju's devil's advocate here and say the guy went, say there's a white Prado or whatever that is following me along. I don't see any action being taken. I'm afraid of my life, so I decide to dump my car and go into hiding.
There's no offense. There's no offense. But there is an offense if that was not the case. And you see, those are the things that the court need to determine. Okay? Honorable Tuju made a report, and then according to him, he went into hiding. Okay? If that be the case, then he has not committed any offense. But the question is, did family members know where he is? Okay?
So if the family says they're aware...
The other question is, why was the aid also in danger? Okay? So that they switched off their phones. Then is it true that they switched off their phones in their houses? Is it true that they left the house to Kiambu, or they were actually in that house? Okay? Did they know that the police was looking for them? Were they involved in deliberately denying police access into the house? Okay?
Yeah.
To be able to prevent police from, solving resolving the issue.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Were they involved with the politicians who broke the news and made it very sensational? Was it a script? Okay. So if that can be found, if that can be determined, then it can be determined that it was fraudulent.
Okay.
And if it was fraudulent, then he's culpable, just like all those who colluded with him would be culpable.
And what are the consequences of that? What should he be found culpable of?
It's a misdemeanor. Mm-hmm. It's a misdemeanor. The consequences is that he can go in for maximum, I think, 3 years jail. I can't remember the amount of fine, but he can also be fined. I think it was about 50,000 or something like that. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, we're going to take a break in a bit, but we saw the way, the videos are very clear. In this day of AI, I don't think that was an AI video, but we saw the way in which the police handled him thereafter. Whether it was speculation or not, he didn't resist arrest, but they felt that they needed to handle him in a certain manner to get him into the vehicle, which could have contributed to the condition in which he finds himself in today. There could have been pre-existing conditions, comorbidities, and all of those things happening. But would it have warranted the manner in which he was handled?
Again, I think I start from what you started with, and that it is in the age of AI, you are never sure about the image or the video that you see online. It is a matter of evidence. And then I'm hoping that it is also a matter that would be investigated, because Honorable Tuju, like any other citizen, has a right to be handled with dignity, and that he has rights to be protected even when under arrest. And you see Article 49. We constitutionalized that right when we were, coming up with the 2010 Constitution. And so if it is determined that police went beyond what they were allowed to do, then I am hoping that mechanisms would be used to hold them to account and to punish them. Honorable Tuju himself has a right to pursue constitutional violation processes within a constitutional court. But then it is important to let people know that the law allows the police to arrest. And during arrest, police is allowed to actually get hold of you physically, especially when you resist. The question is then whether Honorable Tuju, when told that he was under arrest, then resisted or not. From the videos, I see Honorable Tuju in the company of very loud politicians, and they were shouting at the police and so on and so forth. So the question is, did Honorable Tuju or the people who were with him resist an attempt by the police to arrest him? Okay. I keep telling Kenyans that when police tell you are under arrest, the best thing to do is to ensure that they meet the requirements of the law. They tell you the reason why you are being arrested, and then you submit to the arrest.
Okay, let's take a break at this point. Our Justice Thursday conversation then is around this whole idea of self-abduction and giving false information to the police. So it's not just influential figures, but then we're going to take this conversation and extrapolate it to the rest of the country. What happens when individuals bring a case before the police in terms of the dispensation of justice? How quickly does that happen? That's our Justice Thursday conversation for today. It is now 28 minutes to 9. We'll come back and continue with Wakili after this break. Don't go away.
This is the Situation Room, the way to start your day.
Certain processes or whatever the case may be. But how long should the average Kenyan wait for justice?
It depends on the particular issue. Okay, there are incidences that would require immediate action by the police. There are, and it is upon the officer, and the police should be trained to be able to make assessments. And if they think that you just panicked, and then they have no reason to deploy public resources, then they can advise you to go home. And that if you see any other, incidents of danger, then you could report to them. Let them know where you are, and they can come to where you are. Okay, or they could advise you how to keep safe. Okay, all those are options that are available. Because if you want to say that every time everybody makes a report to the police, then police officers should jump into their vehicles and rush to the road to start searching for the white vehicle. It's not possible. We have only 110,000 policemen against a population of 50 million Kenyans. We have fewer number of vehicles and so on. And so it will not be possible. Okay, there are police posts and police stations where you find that after a number of policemen have been released to go on patrol, then you just have a few policemen remaining to a sentry at the police desk. Okay, at the OB desk. So my view is police should be able to assess every situation, and I've been able to make incidences that require immediate response. And I give credit to police where it's due. In one of the incidents I made a few weeks ago in Kisumu, I just found the 3 policemen at the police station, but immediately they were able to radio their colleagues who were on patrol, and they swung into action within 5 minutes. I had police at the incident, at the location where there was an emergency. Okay, so but there are also situations that you might find that the resources they have in terms of human resource and equipment is stretched to the limit. Okay, so again, it calls on the society working closely with the police, the community, hence the concept of community policing. I, for instance, want to imagine that Karen, I knew that Karen had a very strong community policing framework and the neighborhood association, that Honorable Tuju, apart from reporting to the police, should have reported the matter to their neighborhood association. And, rather than abandoning, if it was true that and legitimate that he abandoned his vehicle, rather than abandoning his vehicle in the middle of the road, it should have been very easy for him to drive into a neighbor's house. And then it also calls on, the difference between the where the ordinary person lives and where some of these big shots live. Because in the ordinary neighborhoods, you only need to shout "ooh-wee," and all the neighbors would be out to protect you. But probably where they live, everyone is for himself. Okay, so these are situations that we need to deal with as a society. If we think that police will be available at our doorsteps to protect us every day, it doesn't happen in the US and the UK. Yeah.
Perhaps, do you think that our courts are doing enough to deter these cases, or they're just reacting after they happen? And what really should be done also legally?
I think courts have performed pretty well on the issues of reported abductions and so on and so forth, and violation of rights. And we have had courts, determine application of habeas corpus, which basically is an application for production of the body, dead or alive, of a person who has been reported missing, and that the family have a very good grounds to believe that that person may be in the custody of the police or the state. In such case, our courts have issued habeas corpus writs. But apart from doing that, you have seen in those cases senior government officials, including the IG, the CS in charge of internal security and so on, being, summoned to court, and where they fail warrants of arrest being issued to explain incidences, such incidences. Unfortunately, you find that in some of these situations, where, for instance, an IG is taken out of his situation room, or taken away from the field activity that should protect the nation, they come to court, and then it ends up that it was a case of self-abduction. Okay? Mm-hmm. So courts have also issued then what we call structural interdict. Structural interdict is a writ that courts use, apart from making declarations on rights, to then order and supervise, the correction of those violations. Mm-hmm. Under normal circumstances, once a court pronounces itself, then it becomes functus officio. That is that its authority to handle the matter further, unless it is in review or appeal, ends. But in structural interdict, the court would make a decision and then compel the state to take certain actions and retain the authority to supervise. So it would then order the state that we expect you to do 1, 2, 3. For instance, if you look at the decision that was made on the killings and injuries in riots in Kisumu, demonstrations in Kisumu, I think it was made early this week by Justice Mabea. He then issued a structural interdict requiring the police to the state to come up with the regulations on protection of rights and ensuring successful, peaceful protests in accordance with the Constitution, and asked that the matter be, mentioned before him in July to determine whether there was a move has been made to compensate, but also to ensure that there are regulations. Okay, so our courts are coming up with such innovative. Those are not traditional writs, but innovative writs to ensure that they do not only pronounce themselves, but they supervise the implementation of their orders.
Okay.
Yeah.
But when you sit here and heap praises to the judiciary, maybe a Kenyan may be asking why. Because as much as you're saying that they're doing a good job in these cases of abductions, I argue that sometimes these cases take too long before even justice is brought forth. So when you say that the courts are doing well in terms of these abduction cases, one wonders, like?
Yeah, definitely there have been situations where few individuals within the judiciary have not done their job up to standard. Mm-hmm. However, give credit to the judiciary. I'm a practitioner. You go to court and you find that a judicial officer has, 60 mentions and has 15 hearings in a day. After that, then he has to write rulings and write, judgments. And takes time. Judgments are not, articles. They have to read, they have to research, they have to write, they have to, ensure that everything is accurate. So it's quite a torturous job. One of the challenges that we have had in this country was the strain in human resource within the judiciary. And give credit to the judiciary and give credit to the government, that the government has provided resources so that every other month you see the judiciary recruiting new judges, recruiting new magistrates, opening up new courtrooms across the country. And then you see the entire innovation in virtual litigation that has enabled the cases to proceed faster than previously. So I think there is quite a lot of progress. We still have a long way to go. We will get there. But then we need to give them credit for what they have done.
Do you think there's justification in the hearts and minds of some Kenyans?
This is the Situation Room, the only